Today I'm at the University of Chapel Hill debating Sarah, a vegetarian who's got a soft spot for animals. She doesn't know what we'll be talking about, just that it'll be thought-provoking. So will Sarah consider veganism, or will she just find excuses to keep hurting animals?
What do you think about animal abuse and then people who abuse animals?
Oh my. Okay, I do not condone animal abuse, and I don't think people who abuse animals are I don't think that's right. I would not be friends with an animal abuser, if that's like what I would say for sure. Okay. Yes.
So then let's backtrack real quick and say, like, what is animal abuse? Like, give me examples and kind of like your spectrum of like what's really bad animal abuse, what's like maybe gray area.
For sure. I think animal abuse would just be harming an animal, especially, I think firstly, if there's no reason to, then that's definitely animal abuse. And then also I think even if there is a reason to, like in factory farming, for example, like that's still animal abuse because you are really harming an animal. I just think any significant harm to an animal, I think is just animal abuse. But a gray area, like for example, like hunting, things like that, like obviously you're harming the animal, but especially if you hunt to eat, like I don't think that's, like technically animal abuse at all. Like, yeah. So, but I think it gets gray there. Okay. Yeah.
And then why is animal abuse bad? Like if I kicked a dog in the head or I kicked a rock down the street. I assume you don't think there's anything wrong with kicking a rock down the street. Right. What's the difference there?
I think the rock is not living. It doesn't feel pain, whereas the animal feels pain. And obviously you can't really say like, oh, some people won't believe like, oh, the dog has feelings. But like, I don't know. I mean, like, especially like if you think about dogs or like pigs or cows, like they can have relationships with people and, they obviously care. So I feel like, people might not say the dog feels sad, but I like have a dog and I would feel like my dog feels sad sometimes. Like I think that's valid. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, can dogs be traumatized? Like what about dogs at shelters?
100%. They can totally be. So I think that like inflicting pain, it's not great. But like a rock meanwhile has no idea of pain or feelings at all, in my opinion.
Okay. So just to summarize, we kind of think animal abuse is bad. People who abuse animals, we don't like that. And the reason being that they are sentient. So they seem to be able to feel pain, emotions, and maybe have interests or something that can be thwarted. Animals want to like live.
Yes. Exactly.
Now you mentioned a couple of things. You said it necessary. So like if it was necessary to survive, then it might be okay. Like for instance, if a bear was attacking you, like it would be okay to harm the bear.
Yes, if a bear was attacking me and I had to kill it, I would kill the bear to save my life. Okay, yes.
Okay. And then you also used hunting. I assume in that scenario, like these people have to hunt in order to live. Is that kind of what you were saying?
Right. Like I think it is a gray area. I know people who hunt for the joy of hunting and to like keep the animal, not necessarily eat it. I would not partake in that. Nor would I be thrilled if, for example, like a member of my family was like, I'm going to go into hunting. I would be like, oh, like that's not the most typical hobby that I would assume like the people that I'm close with would do. But I do know people like, like family of my friends who hunt, and I'm not going to like go shame them for hunting. I personally wouldn't do it. But especially if you're hunting to eat, like I think that's very different. Like I would, like I think that's like if you fish and then you eat the fish, like I don't think that's animal abuse, in my opinion, yeah.
Okay, so if you fish and you have to fish, that's not animal abuse. What if you don't have to fish?
I don't think so. It definitely gets great. It's like hard, but I don't think, like I know so many people who fish and I don't see it as technically animal abuse. A lot of people fish, they like take the dead fish out and then, or not dead, but they like will hold the flapping fish, take a photo and toss it back into the water, which I would personally not do that just because it seems, I don't know, it doesn't really seem right. But I also know it's so normalized, but it's good. Like I haven't thought about that a lot. But thank you. I'm gonna think about that now. Yeah.
Well, the next question, you've kind of already like woven this in here, but this is what I was going to ask you. Do you pay any sort of industries that systematically abuse animals?
Oh my gosh, 100%. Yes, like most fast food chains for sure. Lots of clothing chains for sure. I definitely try. I don't even know. I mean, like I consciously would hope that I try to avoid doing so, but I think especially in this society, like it's so hard to really like avoid 100% because like any fast food chain or like fast fashion really like most likely is abusing people and abusing animals. So yeah, definitely I have supported for sure.
But yeah, I think a good distinction here is like sometimes it's unclear, supply chains can be very confusing. Sometimes it's like, is that company good? Is it bad? But let's talk about like where there's absolute certainty. I assume, do you eat like chickens, pigs, cows, fish?
I'm actually vegetarian.
Eggs?
I'm vegetarian. I'm not vegan, so I eat eggs and dairy.
Okay, yeah, so let's talk about eggs real quick. I think because what I want to talk about is like something like standard, right?
For sure.
So sort of across the board, this is basically what happens in almost the entire egg industry, and this is going to include local farms and all that. When chickens are bred, right, we have sort of broilers, and then we have layers. Broilers are the ones that we chop up and eat their body parts, and then the layers are the ones that lay eggs, right? Whenever you're breeding chickens, right, you breed like 100 layer chickens, right? How many of them are male typically?
Oh, I have no idea. Could you tell me?
Okay. No, we can't go on unless you know this
Yeah, I
answer.
have no idea.
So it's like 50%, just kind of like humans, right?
Okay, great.
So we got 50% are males, 50% are females. So the males can't lay eggs. So what do you think happens to them?
Oh, they get grinded up.
Exactly. That's
Yes.
So they're put on a conveyor belt and they get dropped into a giant macerator.
The little chicks. I've
Yep.
seen the videos.
No, okay, yeah.
Not wonderful.
Yep. Or suffocated. Suffocated is the other way they do it.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, whether or not you have chickens on a local farm, big farm, whatever, pretty much everyone gets their chickens from the breeders.
Yeah.
The other thing is that those chickens also have sort of suffering bred into them. In the wild, they'll lay like 12 to 15 eggs, and we bred them to lay like 300. This gives them sort of organ problems, reproductive problems, things like that. So it's another thing like where it just, regardless of the farm, the suffering is going to sort of be bred in there. And of course, after about 2 years, they are killed also. So given that, does that sound like abuse to you?
Yes, it definitely sounds like abuse. And I've known that because of like documentaries and like books that I've read. But I think it definitely, like for me, I'm like, eggs are probably my favorite food. Yes, I love eggs a lot. And I think in the future, I would definitely consider going vegan. I think right now, I'm definitely trying I'm vegetarian, like I will hopefully become like a more strict vegetarian as I go on. But like I still believe that if I were to travel to like a different place and it was a cultural food and I want to try it, then I would try it. But definitely down the line, like I hope to like keep improving and like getting better, like and aligning my actions with my morals. But I definitely think it is a growing process, and like you can't just stop doing a lot of the things that are just normal to you all of a sudden. It's just unrealistic to me. Yeah. I do have to go. Sadly, It's been some time, but it was really good. Thank you for asking these questions.
Sure,
yeah. No, of course.
Can I ask you just one kind of final one, just to sort of figure
sure.
Okay. Imagine like you're at the store and you're about to pick out the eggs, right?
Yes.
And beside the eggs, there's a blender with a baby chick in it.
Yes.
And in order to pick up those eggs and buy them, you have to press that button on the
No,
blender.
I would not
Can
do
you
it. I couldn't do it. And I think that's why a valid reason. Like, if you gave me a pig and like we were like, kill the pig so you can eat it, I wouldn't do it. So, yeah.
Yeah, would you take a resource if I could give you one?
Sure.
About how to go vegan?
Sure.
Awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Yep.
much.
No problem, yeah.
Yeah, have a wonderful day.
Have a good one. Thanks for sitting down. I really
Of course.
appreciate it, guys.
No,
Yeah,
of
thanks for taking time. Yep.
All right, so how'd I mess up? Well, I assumed we'd have longer to talk since she left right as the real crux of the discussion was about to begin. So at the end, I wish I would have said something more like, if you were the victim, how quickly would you want someone like you to stop paying for milk and eggs? This is a line I didn't have in my arsenal at that time last year, but I think it would have been pretty perfect for this situation. If I had more time, I would have also tried to find something to agree with, like, yeah, it can definitely feel daunting at first. I was also nervous about switching my diet overnight, but there's lots of resources online, etc., and it turned out to not be as hard as I thought. And I also would have liked to add in something about objecting to the commodification of animals. But overall, I knew she was on a tight timeline, and I think I just went into way too much detail about the egg industry. Like if I'd cut a little more time out there, maybe I would have had more opportunity at the end. Or maybe I should have just been more aggressive at the end and thrown in a couple more points. But I kind of erred on the side of being a little more polite here, which can sometimes come back and bite you. And if I'd really had more time, I would have challenged the hunting assumptions. But since she herself didn't hunt, it didn't seem like a priority, especially given the time constraints. And if you want to help me make this my full-time career, check out the Patreon in the description. And shout out to Ryan O'Neill, Tom Eisenbeiss, NetBase News, Monstar, David Yastrzemski, and Maxwell Edison.